What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. Bruce, we are just
Are
a
my arms
few,
in this?
actually, less than 2 weeks away from the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Sorry, I
it's
was
going to
making sure
be
my arms were in this.
all good. I can see you. I see you in the frame. I see head, arms, everything. The helmet in
All
the back,
right.
the high school
Let's
football
go.
helmet. Let's
I'm a
go.
beige boy today. I don't know what's up.
Same. I had the same one.
I I threw this on before I went on. And I was like, fuck, I'm wearing a beige shirt and a beige hat.
No,
Yeah.
looks good. Looks good.
Office. Yeah.
But yeah, so Super Bowl coming up. I know we got UFC back this weekend. We're going to talk about that. But I think we'll start off with obviously the big game. And
Which
last
one's
week,
that?
yeah, exactly. We're talking about the Knicks Pacers tonight. Yeah. And last week,
Wait. Give
yeah,
us 30 seconds to breathe here, Jeff. How'd you do
yeah.
how'd you do last weekend?
The weekend was okay. But for football, we did great. We hit both games. So we got our little bounce back. We had the Chiefs with the points. We had the Lions bigger with the points. The Lions was a 2 unit play with the points, and then we had a tiny little half unit on the money line, which that was unfortunate to see how it ended. But
Yep.
if you make a 2.5 unit play and two is on the spread, half on the money line, then you'll take the cover. So
For sure,
and we hit
man.
the Chiefs,
Good
and that
shit
was
this
good.
weekend.
It felt nice to hit both games after the divisional week. So going 2-0 in the conference championship was good. And that's it. We got one game left. This is why I'm like, don't stress out on these playoff games.
Right.
You want to bet them. They're a lot of fun, but like one game left. What are you going to do? You're going to salvage a season away. If you have a losing season, we're up, I think, 21 units for football. But like if you have a losing season, you're not going to
Right.
make it back on the Super Bowl. It's a wrap. Just look forward
No.
to next year. Yeah. So
Absolutely, man. Good
yeah,
good stuff. Congrats on locking in. Congrats to us on
to
locking
us.
in another successful NFL season.
Yeah.
And yeah, now it's
Yeah.
time to have fun in the Super Bowl. This week we're going to be talking about the game. Next week we'll hit you with all the prop bets,
Yeah.
all of the Gatorade colors, and on which yard line Taylor Swift is going to kiss Travis Kelce when they win. Like all that we'll cover next week, but we have a lot to cover on the game today.
Yeah. Did you see there's a prop for will he propose after if the Chiefs win? I'm like, what? I'm like, why would he
What
propose?
is what is that? Plus a million?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what
I
did
think I think the yes is like heavy plus something. I forgot what it was, but it's a big dog.
I
But
might
it's
take
just
that.
it's just funny. Like, how would it have been down for like 2 months or something? 3 months? You're gonna propose just because they won the Super
Love
Bowl?
is
He
in
gets
the
caught up
air.
in the moment.
Yeah. Love is in the air.
Yeah. So I don't know about you. I think the theme for this game is, for me at least, my first thoughts when I'm looking at it is like, is this going to be a revenge game for the 49ers, or is this just a continuation of this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty that we're basically witnessing right now? 6 straight AFC Championship games, fourth trip to the Super Bowl, 2 rings locked up, going for a third. Like, there's no doubt this is now a dynasty, and it kind of just feels like, we can go back and forth on this, but it feels like to me the Niners are just the next team in the way of that, and it's not anything special. It's not really it doesn't feel like a revenge spot for me. I know if you want to back the Niners, it might feel like a revenge spot for you, but it's a different quarterback. They still have a lot of the same players, but for me, this just feels like, man, this is a machine right now, and it's like a steamroller, and you're just the next team in the way of it, kind of thing. And kind of feel like we might see them raise another trophy. I think one of the important things that we're going to need to look at is the matchup between the Chiefs' offense and the Niners' defense, because that to me is more important than the other side of the ball. Because I'm expecting Spags and them to come in with a solid defensive game plan. And I think that you've seen the Niners struggle to kind of get games started, and then they kind of finish strong. So I could see, maybe a scenario where you play like the Chiefs in the first half or something. But I think the Chiefs defense will be ready for this. I think the other side is where I'm like, that's the question mark. Like, what version of the Chiefs offense is going to show up? The one we saw for most of the year, or the one that we're seeing now in the playoffs, which is two completely different teams. Or vice versa, like what Niners defense is going to show up. Like, they just gave up 31 points to the Lions. They, they haven't exactly looked great. Jordan Love was able to throw the ball on them and run the ball on them. So it's like, and throughout the season, they were the 27th or 28th ranked home defense, but second best on the road. And this is obviously a game away from home. So kind of
Yeah.
thinking in my mind, that's my big question. Which version of these two teams we'll see? Because we've kind of seen like a Jekyll and Hyde theme with them all year long.
Yeah. No, with the Chiefs, there's two things that happen in the playoffs. One, they start establishing a run game. Two, the defense starts to show up, right?
Yeah.
And we saw the week before, we are like, oh, is this defensive unit just coming alive now, or is it just a one game thing? Then they go into Baltimore, they do the same thing, right? I personally think that what you see in the playoffs is what you're going to get in the Super Bowl with this team. I think Spags. How many championships does Spags have at this point?
Unreal. So
and
good.
how many times has he, for all the crap that people gave him when he got larger positions, or when he was on a couple of different teams, but he dials up game plans. He was
great.
the only guy to beat the undefeated Patriots, right? And how did he do that? Like, he dialed up pressure in the A gaps on Tom Brady, and he started, flustering him. Like, I don't need to go back to tell you that Spags is
Amazing.
like an OG when it comes to dialing up game plans in big games. Yeah. And Andy Reid, for all the crap that we talked about him for like 75, 80% of his career, he's dialing up offensive strategies in the playoffs like nobody else, right? So when you, obviously both coaching staffs are amazing, right? But the difference is when it's all on the line, you're on a neutral field and all the lights are on, are you going to go with Patrick Mahomes or are you going to go with Brock Purdy to be your guy?
Yeah.
And I'm going with Patrick. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. It's like, it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's like when the game's on the line, is it going to be Brock?
Crazy. Yeah. No, I'm in line with what you're saying. Like, this kind of what you're saying reminds me of the piece of content that we made last year for the Super Bowl, where I basically, like, we gave like 3 reasons why we were going to go with the Chiefs last year, and one of the big things was, like, if you look back at like the last 20-ish Super Bowls, right? Like, whenever I'm looking at data and trend stuff, I try to like keep it within 20 years, because you start to like get through eras of there's different eras of a game, like,
you're like Norm Van Brocklin.
Yeah, you're like since 1940, like, who cares, right? So I try to keep it like within 20.
Masks.
Yeah, leather helmets,
yeah. What are we doing? It's like,
so I always try to keep it within 20 years.
Jimmy Finkelborn, the best running back in the league. It's like, dude, I don't care about those stats.
Yeah, they had cool nicknames back then.
Yeah,
Scooter McGee led the league in receiving.
Smoking cigarettes at halftime and like.
Yeah, so I try to keep it within 20 years, and like, if you just look at like the last 20 years, now you'll see that, like, just flat out, the team, usually the one that wins is the one that just has the better quarterback. Like, just almost always. It's very rare that it doesn't happen, but in this game it's like exacerbated a little bit, because the Niners, yes, they're very good, they have a ton of talent, but like, they clearly have the better coach on the Kansas City sideline, right? Head coach.
Mm-hmm.
They have the better quarterback. And you could make an argument that they have the better overall defense. So for me, like, that's enough to kind of to basically flat out say, like, maybe the wrong team is favored in this game, with the Niners being -2 right now. So, like, Brock Purdy has looked really good, but we haven't seen him obviously on the biggest stage, and he starts these games a little flat. The dangerous part about this matchup is you cannot start this game flat. If you come into this game and you go down 10, 14 points early, it's not going to be like the Lions defense, which is like going to just basically lay down and you're going to throw the ball over them. That's not happening against this defense. They're going to they're grind the hell out of it to get back into that game. So I feel like the way the Chiefs start, their game plan has kind of been, like you said, established the run, great defense, but they seem to like come out early, like they did against Baltimore, and just build up a lead, and then kind of just like coast it away. And they know, like, you're going to have to go through hell to get back into this game. And if that's a scenario, I think the Niners are in trouble if they go down early in this one. So, like, I'm going to be looking, do they come out firing? Purdy can't come out all with the nerves and everything, and like, oh, it takes him a while to get going in the second half. It's going to be too late by then, especially with
Dude,
Mahomes on the other side. Give it these 6-7 minute drives that end in points, even if they're field goals. 2 possession game, whatever it is, it's going to be really tough to get back into it. So I think that's going to be interesting to see which version of them shows up.
And we got to 10 minutes and 30 seconds of this podcast without talking about Taylor Swift. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Do you have the button? Maybe we can get an applause.
No,
Does it work?
It's not connected to my phone.
God
damn it.
Damn it. But is there a more valuable picture in the year 2024 than Travis Kelce kissing Taylor Swift under a rain of confetti on the 50-yard line after winning the Super Bowl?
Is there big.
There is no better picture in 2024 for news outlets, online press. That is the most expensive picture of 2024. And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that jersey sales are not going to blow? Like it's going to go to Valhalla if this. Like, are you kidding me? Travis Kelce jersey sales are literally going to go to Valhalla if they win the Super Bowl. I cannot see a business reason why the NFL lets the 49ers win the Super Bowl. And we've done referee trends. We've done plenty of ways to show that how these outcomes are decided. It's an entertainment business, right? We're betting on it. We love it as a sport. We played it.
Yeah.
But it's an entertainment business. And there is no better entertainment business move than Taylor Swift on the 50-yard line with Travis Kelce doing a spin.
Oh my God.
Colors. It's beautiful.
Could you imagine?
And if I am imagining. That's a part of my thesis for the bet. I know we have the numbers. I know we have all of these things, but there's also when they were going into Baltimore, we said the same thing. We're like, does the NFL really want to see Lions in Baltimore showing up in the Super Bowl, or do they want Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift?
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. They're dying for this victory. They want it bad. And it's also gives them their third Super Bowl. Like 3 is like that kind of like magical number, right? For like a dynasty, they get their third ring, third in 4 years or whatever it is. It's just, I mean, it seems to all be lining up for them. I mean, the trends back it up too. I mean, you got Vinovich was named the referee. We have a video out on that. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But he's heavy to the under and he's heavy towards dogs, 60% against the spread towards underdogs. And I know they're a small dog, it's just +2, but still counts. They're a dog. So he's kind of, and he's a vet. He actually reffed the first matchup in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs won. So he's been here and done that before. And then just overall, the last 20, I think, Super Bowls, 13-7 for the underdog against the spread. So there's, there's enough here to where it kind of all points towards Kansas City. Now, one of the interesting things is the line opening 2.5 comes down immediately to 1, but now gets bought back up to 2. So there's basically a little bit of sharp money or syndicate money on each side of this game, which is why everyone's like, what's the sharp side? What's the public side? Whenever you get to these big playoff games, I'm like, just ignore the handles in these big playoff games, because there's smart money on both sides. And there's dumb money on both sides. It's not like the regular season where you got 15 games on a slate and you can snipe the one where there's heavy lopsided action. Everyone's looking at this game. There's no edge. There's no like discernible edge here. So it's not the Rams versus the Raiders on a 1 p.m. slate where you're like, okay, I found something here. This is the most bet game, of the NFL season. So you're going to get a ton of money on both sides. Yeah, for sure. And some more trends that we can talk about here. So I mentioned earlier about the Niners in the second half and the Chiefs in the second half. So part of that kind of game plan that the Chiefs implement leads to a lot of second half unders. When I looked this up, I was shocked. I didn't know it was this crazy. Their last 20 games, 18-2 to the second half under for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs get all their points in the first half. And that's exactly what happened against the Ravens. The Ravens just could not get back into the game, but the Chiefs scored most of their points I think all of them in the first half. So they kind of just coast through these second halves and rely on their defense, which you don't want to see that completely. I think you still got to do something in this game. You maybe want to spread it out a little bit, but 18-2.
You saw it with the Lions.
Yeah, exactly. 18-2, and the second half under right now is sitting at 23.5. That's not bad. You can see a play to that under. Now, last year in the Super Bowl, I mean, the Chiefs put up a ton of points, 38 points, but that was a high-scoring back-and-forth affair. I'm not sure if you're going to see that this year. And that was also a different Chiefs team than we've seen for most of this season. So that's kind of interesting. Also, short favorites, which we always talk about short road dogs in general, and now you also have a Super Bowl trend with short favorites that are 18-29 against the spread. So that's just 38% if you're favored by 2.5 or less. So that short road dog system that we like to push for the regular season kind of applies to the Super Bowl, which is kind of interesting. So that's a good one there. And then kind of your useless one, which I don't know if you put any stock in this, but
I put all the stock in it.
16
actually.
of the last 19 Super Bowl winners have worn white. So how about that? And the Niners are wearing white this year. Just like the last matchup, though, one of those losses, the 16 out of the 16 out of 19, one of the 3 losses was the Niners wearing white the first time around. The Chiefs won in red. So that's kind of pointless, but kind of a little interesting.
So now I have to balance 49ers wearing white versus Taylor Swift.
Everything else that we just talked about, yeah.
So Taylor Swift on the 50-yard line versus the 49ers wearing white. Now this is true. This is true sports betting analytics right here. These two things. Yeah. Now we're in the basement cooking.
I'm telling you, dude. The white jerseys, something about them. I don't know. Maybe it's the contrast of the colors or whatever it is. Also, here's another good one, by the way. We talked about the Chiefs coming out quick in the first half. 37 out of the 57 Super Bowls, the winner is the team that scores first. So very likely you see a Kansas City score first here based on what we're looking at here by the numbers. Similar to how the Lions game turned out, the Ravens game turned out. That's what happened. Chiefs seem to score first. Niners seem to come on late. So kind of interesting there as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that, sorry to cut you off. At the end of the day, I think what I think basically the biggest thing to watch here, I think, is the Chiefs offense versus the Niners defense. I think the other side of the ball, we can kind of project a little bit accurately, but that side is the one where I'm looking at. I'm like, is the Kelsey connection that seems to have picked up during the playoffs that continue? Does he score? When Kelsey scores a touchdown, they're almost unbeatable. It's crazy. The running game with Pacheco, right? The Niners are definitely susceptible to the rush. The Niners running game, like one of the questions last week was like, why didn't the Ravens run the ball more? I know, I'm sure you saw that 6 handoffs to running backs.
Yeah.
Like the Niners have McCaffrey and the Chiefs are a bottom 5 rushing defense. They should be pounding the rock. They should be exploiting that. But the Chiefs with Spags, was what we were just praising him for earlier, they have a tendency to get you into they get you out of your game plan. They get you into these awkward rhythms where you start to go away from what makes you successful. He's so good at getting you to do that. So it's like, can they do that one more time? For me, I think they can. I'm leaning to the Chiefs in the game. That's probably what we're going to go with. So,
yeah, I'm leaning to the Chiefs too. I think I have a bet in already. I gotta double check, but
yeah.
And we'll I think I got mine in.
Yeah, and we'll add stuff as we get closer. Like last year, we had a Super Bowl card with had 6 or 7 picks on it. So we'll have a full Super Bowl card with props, player props, some fun props. Maybe we'll guess the Gatorade color or something like that. And obviously an official pick on the side. So the total sitting at 47.5, which is kind of interesting. It's a key number. It opened 48.5, so it came down a point. But for me with that, when the totals are sitting right around those key numbers, like 43.5, 47.5, I just tend to avoid them. I think it's way too wishy-washy versus trying to pick who actually wins the game, especially in these Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I'm on the side of just not wanting to root for a boring under game
True.
in the Super Bowl. That's my
Yeah.
emotional side. I know we're going to look at the stats. We're going to look at,
Yeah.
whether how often these things happen and what's the probability, but just in my heart as a
Yeah.
bettor, I
Yeah.
don't want to see a boring under. I'm going to be sitting there. Everybody's going to be excited when somebody scores a touchdown. I'm going to be like, all right.
Yeah.
All right. How
Yeah.
many more
But I think I
quarters do we have to
also,
go before I get out of
I'm
this
pretty
shit?
sure I saw earlier that it's almost 50-50. Like out of the 57 Super Bowls, it's like 28 and 29 or something like that. Like it's the total is basically a coin flip in these games. So stick with the
I
side. We'll
dropped my
probably
mic.
we'll probably have a pick on the side and some props and stuff. So that'll be fun. But we'll have more on that next week for the
Yes,
for the props
sir.
and stuff. So, but we do have this weekend a UFC card that's back. So I know you prepared some stuff to talk about there. So why don't you take us away? I know you got a couple of picks to give out too, right?
Brother,
Got
am
some
I
underdogs.
excited? Am I excited? Can I just say before we start to our loyal following on YouTube, undefeated in January.
Woo!
Undefeated in January.
Yes.
Pat on the back on the pod picks. We're gonna try to
Yes.
keep that going this week,
Let's
but we're
go.
not gonna make it easy because we're doing double dog dare Delize doper.
Oh, double dogs.
That's alliteration.
But you guys have
That's
been doing good
alliteration right
with
there.
hitting these underdogs though.
Yes, sir.
So
So
might be free.
what I mean, duh. Duh, Jeff. But we have two dogs that we want to go over today. The first one that we're going to talk about is Roman Dolidze versus Nasruddin Imavov. So Roman Dolidze plus 142, Nasruddin Imavov minus 170 right now. The angle that we're taking on this fight, sometimes we're doing stylistic angles, sometimes we have systems, and sometimes we're just getting a little crazy. But this one is definitely a stylistic matchup angle. So just to go over it for those uninitiated, I'm Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov, which I have no idea how this became a headliner. This is a fight for fight fans. This is not a fight for the casuals. Like, for this to be a headliner, it's like, okay, a French boxer and and this dude that looks like Jeff is gonna be out there fucking in a 5-round main event. But both are super talented guys, very different stylistically. Dolidze is a top tier grappler. He has big power in his hands, low strikes per minute, doesn't throw a ton of volume, but he's knocked out quite a few people in the UFC. He's also an A-plus submission specialist. Like, this dude is like master of sport, like has won national titles in grappling. He is top tier. He's going against Imavov, who's a boxer, slick striking, really puts the hands on you. The only person that he really didn't have success straight up in a boxing match was Sean Strickland. And that was a fight where you sort of saw the coming out party for Sean, where you're like, okay, this guy just has a 1-2, and Imavov is like this crazy striker. Imavov was going to beat him, and Sean Strickland basically like pulverized him for 3 rounds. And we're like, how is this happening? He only has a 1-2, but like he rode that all the way to a championship. So that fight sort of aged well for Imavov. I was very disappointed, but it aged well. But here's the key. Imavov has never fought a grappler. Well, he's fought one grappler in the UFC, and that's Phil Hawes, and he lost to him. He was up against the cage the entire time. He was getting taken down. He had a lot of success striking, which basically everybody does against Phil Hawes to this point, as you can see from his last fight. But he couldn't get off the cage enough. So Phil Hawes won a decision there. Phil Hawes was exhausted, but he was still able to grapple Imavov. Since then, not one grappler on the slate for Imavov. So he's only been fighting strikers. He's been having success, but he hasn't been tested again. And now they're going to test him against Roman Dolidze, who is like one of the best grapplers in the division, and he has power. So when we're looking at this stylistically, it's like Dolidze has grappled great grapplers. He's taken down and beat up great strikers. I don't understand the line here. Like, Jeff, can you help me? Like where is this line coming from? Like I'm riding Dolidze
No. Yep.
until Mavov shows me that he can defend takedowns and stay
Right.
off the fence.
Right.
And I'll say it. There's going to be probably one dude on here who's going to be pissed off. French MMA dudes can't wrestle. They can't wrestle. It's not a part. It's not, I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on out there, but they
Yeah.
don't have a wrestling scene out in France. We saw Cyril Gane versus
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou. Like, I haven't seen a great French wrestler in the UFC
Yeah.
yet.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe Benoit Saint Denis. Maybe Benoit Saint
Gotcha.
Denis.
It's our boy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our boy. That's the only guy. But I'm not. I mean, listen. I think that Dolidze puts him on the fence, takes him down, beats him up, possibly finishes him with a submission because he's so skilled down there.
Right.
Like, Dolidze lost his last one against Vittori, but he was on quick turnarounds, man. He was fighting every 3 months for 9 months straight.
Oof.
And he's a big dude.
Yeah.
That cuts a lot of weight. So I think his tank was probably a little low in there. He didn't wrestle at all in that fight. Marvin Vittori has a great tank, great wrestling defense and offense. So assuming he didn't want to burn out in that type of fight, he was striking with him. Right. But I think he smothers Mavov in this one.
Yeah, it kind of seems to me like from our experience doing this for years now that MMA lines seem to overreact like a lot to the previous fight. Like if Dolidze is coming off a loss and Imavov has looked good against other strikers and he hasn't had a wrestler in a while, like there's a lot, like we cash on these all the time, these buy low opportunities of these guys that just look like they had a terrible fight last time out, but maybe it was just the matchup, maybe it was something they struggled with, maybe it was a short turnaround, right, or short notice, whatever it was. But that's kind of seems to me like what happens pretty often here is like guys get undervalued or overvalued pretty strongly, and then the market just kind of goes with it. So getting plus 40 here seems like a pretty good. So it kind of seems like from the way you're breaking it down that Imavov's way to victory here might be a decision. Like if he's not gonna sub him, and Dolidze can strike with him, so kind of he's got power. Kind of seems like you're
Absolutely.
either looking here that's to get him early maybe and not kind of stay in there with him.
Yeah, I agree. So the Dolidze money line is where I would go. If you wanted to go a Mavov, I think it's by decision. Like, so if you look at Dolidze, again, low strikes landed per minute. So if Amavov doesn't go to the floor and can keep it on the feet, he can definitely strike with him over 3 rounds.
Right.
Put the volume on him, possibly even hurt him because he's a great striker. But I think the decision is the play there because Dolidze, a little bit plotting, throws a lot of big shots, but they're not, he's not going to put volume on you. So he's either going to hurt you or he's going to get behind on the scorecards because he doesn't throw a lot of volume.
Gotcha.
I just think that he's going to get this down to the floor. And if we're looking at BS stats like white versus, red in the Super Bowl, Dolidze's won three of his last 4 fights as a dog in the UFC, right? And that doesn't usually mean much, but it just shows that the books usually have him much lower value than what he is. Maybe they just don't know that he's like a decorated medalist grappler because it didn't happen in America, right? So like,
right.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure.
That's legit. But those kind of stats are legit though, because like in the NBA, we'll look for teams that are great against the spread when they're dogs and not when they're favorites. And that just means that when they're dogs, they're typically mispriced. Like they just, for whatever it is, they're undervalued in those spots. So, it's got like we have a play tonight on Utah. The Jazz are like that. The Jazz are amazing as home dogs. They're like the best home dog in the league, but they're terrible everywhere else. So it's like they're just mispriced when they're at home. That's all it is.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So it makes sense. So if he's catching as a dog, but yeah, I like that. But a plus 140, that's a good price too for someone who can win in multiple ways, right? Like there's not one path for him to win the fight. So seems solid.
And he's a giant. A fucking giant. I don't know. Let's add that to the stat list for him. He is gigantic. He is so strong. He's huge. Like when you see the size up, they'll probably be close height, but Dolidze's a thick boy.
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
is a great grappler. So we're gonna go Roman Dolidze
Love it.
plus 140. Get it while it's hot,
Let's go. Love it.
and or
And you
before it gets
said,
dropped or whatever. Because whenever I'm confident in one of these
yeah,
dogs, like the fight gets canceled.
they
So
climb. They
let's see.
climb or it goes away. Yeah, well, the line moves.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then so you mentioned double D's. The next D is, oh boy.
Drew
Oh man.
Dober
Man.
versus Hanato Money Moicano. Now, this is another interesting stylistic matchup, right? So, like, the line opened minus 140 for Moicano and it got bought up. And I don't understand the buy up here either, right? Because if we look at who these fighters are, Drew Dober stands in the pocket, great boxing, great head movement, throws power, throws in combination, big finisher, right? Great boxer, okay takedown defense. Hanato Moicano, he's entered a phase of his career coming up to 145 to 155 where he's nicknamed himself Money Moicano. He wants to put on exciting fights, right?
Gotcha.
He has good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He has okay to bad takedowns. Like they're pretty, like he gets them via trips, he'll get them via knockdown, but his straight up double legs pretty weak, right?
Yeah.
And he plants and throws. He has a good jab, he has a good straight right, but he sits on his punches and he tries to get into a war with you. That is not the style that you want versus Drew Dober. Like
Right.
Drew Dober
Yeah.
wants to do that. He wants
Yes.
to stand on a quarter with you and throw down.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why there's a co-main. Like they know that this is finish written all over it.
This
Like
is a knockout.
these guys are gonna go at it, right?
Right.
And if I'm taking a bet on two sides of a coin, and one is Drew Dover standing in the pocket and throwing, and one is Hanato Moicano standing in the pocket and throwing, like my money is on Drew Dober every time. And that's, that's like a 65-35 bet for me for Drew Dober
That's pretty
in that scenario. So I'm seeing loads of value on Drew Dober, and you could even get a Drew Dober knockout for like plus 238, plus 250 right now.
Well, that seems like that's going to be the way that he gets it, right? This is going to be a finish.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So this is how. So I'm going to put on my hat right now, my prediction hat right now, and I'm going to give you how I see this fight.
It worked
going.
last time. The hat. It worked beautifully last time.
Yeah. So I'm going to see. You're going to see a first round that's going to be Moicano pumping out the jab. He's.
Yeah.
I hope that gets on the mic. And he's going to be tagging Drew Dober. Like Drew Dober is going to he's going to eat jabs, and you're going to be like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
These locking cash guys don't know what the hell they're talking about.
We lost this one.
We lost this one. Like Drew Dober's going to have maybe like a bloody nose, like 3 minutes in, you're going to be like, oh my God. But the thing about Drew Dober is he eats those. He's a dog.
Yeah.
So Drew Dober being a dog, he'll take some jabs to the face and weigh in and get his combinations off.
Right.
And Moicano doesn't move his head. So if he can eat a couple of those jabs and get in, throw, I'm saying it's going to be a 3-punch combination. It's going to be right hook, left hook to the body, right hook over the top to the head.
And
that
gets him.
Money Moicano's going out. And that's how that's how I'm predicting this fight goes. Like it's gonna look a little ugly in the beginning. These guys are gonna go at it. You're gonna see a lot of straights landing from Moicano on Dober.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the power to put him out. He's gonna wait through. He's gonna get the finish. If not, it's gonna be fight of the night. Two dudes extremely bloody and beat up, and we'll see probably like a split decision there. But I don't see this going to the ground. I don't see Moicano getting it to the ground.
Right.
And I don't see Moicano finishing Dober. So I think there's just so much value on Drew Dober that.
And what's his line?
We got to take it. Plus 154.
Wow. Yeah. That kind of like fight script sounds pretty accurate to me. That's the way a lot of his fights have gone.
Right.
So totally could see that happening where it's just like they just are throwing down and someone's going to catch someone. So
Yeah.
and like when you have those types of fights, taking the dog is usually like advantageous because you're when two guys are throwing like that, man, like anything could happen. You're talking about anybody could catch anybody, so taking the plus money odds in a high variance situation like that is like usually money. Especially if the guy has
100%.
can strike and has power like he can, so it kind of makes sense to me. I like
Yeah.
that one. Like that one a lot.
And on top of that, to throw in some real fight breakdown for you, you know, fucking Moicano is orthodox going up against a southpaw, and in a straight up striking match, southpaw usually has the advantage there.
Yeah.
And Moicano knocked out 3 times since 2019. He didn't get knocked out by Dos Anjos, but oh my god, did that fight take years off his life? If you want to see somebody just get beat up, like watch, like like you can turn off World Star Hip Hop for a little bit, and you can go watch Rafael Dos Anjos versus Moicano. Like
Yeah.
I love violence, and I was like, can somebody stop this fight?
Yeah,
Like
it was rough. Yeah.
this was rough to watch. But he's a gamer. Moicano's a gamer, but he's been knocked out 3 times since 2019, and I think that fight
Make it
took years off
4.
his life.
Make it 4, Money Moicano. 4th knockout.
I'm sorry. I like
Let's go.
Moicano too, but I'm going Drew Dober.
You know what's-
We'll likely take the money line there.
Yeah.
I might sprinkle personally the knockout, but
I like it. Half unit,
money line
quarter
is
unit.
yeah, a little
I love
something
those little half
the
unit or
squad.
quarter unit sprinkles, man. You gotta have some fun.
Yeah, for the squad, for the group chat.
Yes, yes. And you know what's funny is that every time we talk about Drew Dober or hear his name, I think of like when we first started Lock and Cash. I don't know if you remember. We were talking with like some MMA account on Instagram. We're like chatting back and forth or something, and like they knew Drew Dober or they talked to him or something. You remember this? You know where I'm going with this, right? They're like,
yeah.
oh, he's gonna do this and that. And I remember that he got knocked out in the fight.
I think what was that? Drew Dober versus Islam?
It was a while ago. I can't remember who.
It was a while
like
back.
Almost
and he was like
4 or 5. Like it was just like when we first started 4 years ago now.
I think it was Drew Dober versus Islam, and he's locked in.
Bro, he's locked in. He's gonna get him.
He's gonna get him.
Yeah, it's just a funny little anecdote. He did not end up getting him.
He did not get him. He did not get him.
So funny to look back on that.
I think we capped Drew Dober pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, we lost 2
overall,
fights.
yeah, for sure.
We lost 2 fights on Drew Dober, picking him. One was against Islam, and then I think one was against oh my god, the bearded fellow that knocked him out. It was Drew Dober's only knockout loss. Let me look it up.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was disgusting. It was I was so upset. It happened last year. Matt Frivola, Steamroller Matt Frivola.
Steamroller, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I
we
remember
got
that now.
We got one back on him with Benoit Saint Denis though.
Yes, so. Yeah. That's our boy, Benoit. All
right, dope. New lightweight champion of the world.
2 dogs, Dolice plus 142, and Dober plus 150. You said 54, right? Plus 154. So
yeah, dog Drew Dober.
2 dogs
Dolice.
to keep the UFC. 2 dogs to keep the UFC podcast streak alive. I love it because when you have a streak, bro, right? You could just come on here and give out like a minus 175 to keep the streak alive. But you were like,
no,
screw that. 2
dogs.
Play those
games.
We don't play those games. Yes,
I live in reality. We're breaking down reality, and I'm giving you guys the value. I'm not here. I'm not here to keep the streak alive.
Yeah, love it. Those big favorites don't usually work out in UFC anyway. They usually don't, And even if when you hit a bunch, you're not going to be profitable long term. I just posted today, as we'll wrap this up. But if you guys go over to our Twitter or /X, I posted the January recap. I'm going to do a monthly recap for every month this year, whether it's good or bad. So we posted the January recap. We finished like up around 10 units, so it was like a kind of an iffy month, but green is green. But the average line, that's what I want everyone to look at on those posts every month. The average line was plus 112. Like we're not laying any juice. So there's a lot of guys out there that will just give out these big favorites to boost their records, boost their winning percentage. But we hit, I think it was 53-ish% for the month, but with a plus 110 or plus 112 average line. That's the key right there. Like these two plays that Bruce just gave you guys, like that is the key to doing this over a long period of time, not giving the book their vig. So
I'm juicing it,
baby.
And on top of that, we're going to give an 8-leg parlay plus 40,000. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Just alternate. Like you go leg 1, I go leg 2, 3, 4. Just like meanie.
You know, parlay Dober and Moicano. We need to juice the reported lines. All right. Average line going up.
Good stuff. All right. So Super Bowl, leaning Chiefs, Roman Delise, Drew Dober. That is this week's podcast. So next week, guys, if you tune in, we are going to be talking Super Bowl props. So we're going to come prepared on the show. We'll give you guys some prop picks. We'll go over some of the more exotic stuff. And then probably like an official, we'll release the official pick on the side, which it's probably going to be Kansas City, but we'll release an official one there. And we'll talk some more UFC because I know there's also UFC that weekend as well. So
yeah, we're going to break down an even worse card next week. Jack Hermanson versus Joe Pyfer.
And then after that, after the Super Bowl, we're just winging this show. You're coming on here. It's going to be hockey. It's going to be basketball, spring training, baseball. Now imagine.
It's going to be 37 units on UFC Fight Night.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for the whole week, for the whole month of February.
I'm going to break down the entire card with Jeff from main card to early prelims.
That's right.
Do you want to know who's going to win between Andrea Lee and Miranda Maverick? Tune in next week.
Oh my God, bro. I mean, we're in the thick of college basketball, but it's just not the same when football goes away, you know?
I know.
It's simply not the same. So
me and Jeff are going to wrestle live on the podcast, and you could live bet who you think is going to win.
Beautiful. I like that. We might, to spice things up when football's gone, your idea of the dunk bet, we might just have to force a dunk bet every week. Like every week. We got to go opposite on some game.
Yeah.
And
I got you.
And just have it be a dunk bet.
That's easy.
Let's
do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Locking Cash Sports on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. And that's pretty much it. The annual pass is now released. So I got 6 emails over the last, during January, I probably got 6 or 7 emails about that. That's now available. You buy 9 months, you get 12 months. So 3 free months included in the yearly. So check that out if you're interested. And on to next week, Bruce. See you guys. Peace.
Later.